Hello, everyone. My name is Nima. I'm a medical student and brain tumor researcher. I'm here with a long-term mentor of mine, Dr. Mansouri. How are you, Dr. Mansouri?
I'm great. How are you, Nima?
Why don't you? I'm great too. Why don't you introduce yourself and give our audience an overview of what you do?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Mansouri. As Nima mentioned, I'm a brain tumor surgeon, and I have a passion for clinical trials. And I'm excited to be having this chat with Nima today.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you. So you said that you've been passionate about clinical trials. We've done a lot of research in regards to brain tumors together. So why don't we just go straight to clinical trials and talk about what they are and what piqued your interest in them?
Yeah. Clinical trials are an opportunity, they're a research endeavor, and they're an opportunity for us as scientists or clinician investigators to try out something that we think is going to be the next best therapy or device or drug to make sure is it actually working in patients the way we want it to. And for patients, it's an opportunity to have access to the most leading edge therapies, cutting edge therapies. So clinical trials, as you know, are divided into different phases, and they are designed to do different things. First is it feasible? Is it safe? What's the best dose? There's all sorts of things that sorts of opportunities there are to investigate the different aspects of a new treatment.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, there are different phases, there are a lot of different doses, there's a lot of components. Why are all these components important, specifically in the field of neurosurgery and neuro-oncology, brain tumors, that they're changing so rapidly?
Yeah, you hit it right on point. There's cancer especially has been a big challenge, and now that we understand the biology of cancers a lot better, not just brain. I'm biased about brain stuff, but in all of the fields of cancer, there's rapid innovation, rapid advancement. But we'll go right down to a phase 0 or phase 1 trials are designed to see, let's say, for a brain tumor drug, does it get into the brain? Does it get into the brain tumor? And does it do the little cellular things that we saw in the mice or in tissue culture, for example? And then you want to find the right dose. So first you start off with a safe dose, but then you want to know, okay, can we edge this dose higher while still keeping it safe and achieving the maximal efficacy? And then, so that's like the phase 1 stuff. And then phase 2 and 3, you're trying to say, okay, does the tumor respond to it? Does it have an impact on survival and things like that? And all of this is done incrementally to make sure everything is safe and to make sure that we're recruiting patients when we're actually confident that it will do something positive for them.
So you did mention the word safe multiple times, and I think that's the concern for a lot of patients when they want to recruit or join these clinical trials. How would we make people understand the level of safety and the extent to which we go to ensure that the treatment that the patients are receiving are in their best interest?
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. So first of all, when you develop a protocol, when a scientist or investigator develops a protocol, they have done their research and they've done hopefully their reading into making sure that the design of this and every aspect of it is safe. And then depending on what your institutional structure is, you have a disease group that looks to see, okay, within our group, this is feasible. So we're not going to waste patients' time. We're not going to waste valuable resources. And it is an interesting question to address. Then above that, let's say it's a cancer trial, you go to the cancer center, and there's a group of well-experienced investigators who look at the protocol and say, okay, this seems safe, reasonable, falls within the mandate of advancing care in cancer patients. Once that has been approved, then that goes to a research ethics board. And that's comprised, again, usually of scientists, but there's patient advocates, lawyers, regulatory people. And they try to see, they really go at every part of your protocol to make sure this is safe for patients and things make sense. They even look at the consent, for example. And once you've got approval to start the study, I think as a patient, it's reassuring to know that there's multiple layers. So your own cancer center can audit the trial to make sure everything is being performed safely. And then depending on what kind of study you're running, let's say in America, the Food and Drug Administration can have random audits into your protocol. So the typical notion of clinical trials is that you're a guinea pig, it's not safe, it's very experimental, but I think we can rest assured that there's multiple layers of safety integrated into us to make sure patients are safe.
And they're very important too, because as we touched on it early on, brain tumor research is a rapidly growing field, and a lot of more effective treatments may have not gotten may still be in the level of clinical trials, and a lot of patients can benefit from joining these projects and research
Trial.
experiences, trials, and benefit from, and quote unquote, tomorrow's treatment that may
Mhm.
not be accessible to a lot of patients. Now, you did say that there is an ethic board that goes into every detail and make sure things make sense. As we discussed prior with each other, things doesn't really seem to make sense when we go on these websites to look in clinical trials. And we both have our experiences.
Yeah.
My recent experience when I had a family member who was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and my knee-jerk reaction as a medical student, second year medical student, was like, okay, well, clinical trials. Let me go see what's out there that it's not necessarily here. And I was just blown away by the level of complexity. And I went to the clinicaltrials.gov. That's the one, right? Yeah. So I
Mhm.
went to that website and I was like, okay, well, let me see what's out there. And I was like, I don't know. I don't understand any of this. And I'm supposed to have some level of medical education to help me understand it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's how do people go about understanding things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've talked a lot about this, and definitely very difficult times.
Yeah.
They're not easy, and I think you're not alone, right? There's lots. We've all had someone, whether it's a friend or a family member or ourselves, they've been diagnosed with something, life changing. And as you said, now internet's so accessible, so you want to go online and see what options are out there. And you come across clinicaltrials.gov, you say, "Great, this is my opportunity to find clinical trials," because someone's told you, or that clinical trials are the next best thing in terms of innovative treatments. But then you just get lost. And on the one hand, it's great to know that there's so many different regulatory things that go into it, but you got to understand that clinicaltrials.gov was created as more of a regulatory database that, okay, before you start a trial, it has to be registered. We have to know every aspect of it. And what are the eligibility criteria? What are you trying to do? What is the main outcome you're trying to look at? And so that's the level that it kind of has stayed at. It was never designed for patients or loved ones and care partners to go on and find the right treatment. Is it right for me? Should I join it? How am I going to feel? Is it going to be difficult? Is it going to help me? None of that has been explained, right? And so even myself with a brain tumor research background, with clinical trials background, if I'm trying to look up a specific topic, I may get lost in all the details. It takes a long time to sift through all the details. So for sure, it's very challenging.
I think that's one of the main reasons that I was very excited that when you approached me first for the WeTrials and joining the team, I almost felt like it was faith. I was like, I just went through this experience. As a person who always wanted to do the best for other people, that's the reason that I became a medical student, hopefully becoming a physician soon. It's really on point. How are we now, for the people who are not actually part of our meetings, how are we planning to achieve this simplification of clinical trials and patient actually becoming a part of these projects? How are we going to achieve that?
Yeah, I think the bottom line of anything you do is if you are a part of it, you kind of feel like a sense of ownership over it, and you're more likely to want to see it succeed, right? So let me tell you, like, again, from a brain tumor statistic, for example, glioblastoma, or most aggressive brain tumor, unfortunately, it's very fatal right now. Only 5% of potentially eligible patients are actually enrolling on clinical trials. And we've done think tanks and focus groups to find out how can we make that better. And there's lots of factors that go into it. But I think a big element of that is the fact that simply they're hard to understand and that they can be intimidating. So we want to take a patient-centric approach. Like, a lot of people are already doing when they want to design a trial, they incorporate patient advisors. Hey, how is this design make sense? Is it going to be something that you're interested in? And I think that's great. But once that has been designed and it's ready to launch, why not take it one step further? Like, have patients be involved in every aspect of the communication. Like, what are the nuts and bolts that you're trying to convey to a patient to see if they're interested or not? Don't go on a long laundry list of eligibility criteria. So what we're trying to do is, with the help of patients at every step of the way, simplify the language of clinical trials, understand what it all entails, get community feedback, create this ecosystem that kind of evens out the playing field, democratizes the process, so that, if you're sitting in at your home in the prairies in Canada, let's say, and you're looking for a clinical trial, and when you go on Google, you may get the top ranking institution that lists their trials. Meanwhile, you didn't know that an institution close to home had the same trial and great friendly staff, and people who went there had great experience. So that's the kind of ecosystem we want to create. You benefit from the feedback of your own fellow patients who have gone through this, and you're like, you know what, I think that's the right trial for me. I understand what they want me to do. I'm up for it. So that's how you're more likely to recruit to it, stay in it. You get access to the treatment that you need close to home potentially, and the investigators get to test out their trial and see if they can benefit the greater good.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to hear that only 5% of eligible people actually join clinical trials. And I think the reason for that is because, for example, the reason that I had a knee-jerk reaction to look for clinical trials as soon as I had a family member that was in need was because, I have gone through the medical education. I've seen these things in action. I do research myself. So it's taken many years for me to build that trust with the medical system to join those, to be willing to join these projects and trials.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that we're kind of leveling the playing field and bringing the patients more closer to their community hospitals and community institution can kind of mitigate that level of uncertainty about whether or not people have their best interest in mind, because they worked with these facilities before. Hopefully they have built a rapport and they know some of the people in these hospitals, and now they're able to kind of take advantage of the trials that are being offered in that hospital. And as you said, they don't need to travel all the way to another city.
Yeah, they may have to for some things, but for the most part, if it is available, you would have a non-biased access to it. It's not based on an advertising fee that someone has paid. It's available because simply that's the fact, and your peers have evaluated it and they have feedback on it. Yeah.
And you said it's not like a paid advertisement. We know they're recruiting companies that they help investigators to recruit patients. How would WeTrials be different than that?
Yeah, I think it's important to emphasize that our goal is not to directly be a recruiting group. Our movement is more so around creating that online supportive ecosystem where all the key players come in and join and have an opportunity for exchange. So you have industry, academic institutions, investigators, patients, care partners, and as a scientist, I can benefit from, this is what patients actually value, or the visits for my clinical trial are really inconvenient. I should change them around. I should improve the communication around that. So it's more that, and by virtue of having created that, recruitment and retention becomes more organic. It's not forced.
I think that the idea behind it, from what I'm understanding, is that we know nobody cares about their health than patients themselves. People themselves, they care about their health. It's just a matter of communicating,
empowering
the benefits, empowering, those patients to first understand the language by providing the more simplification of that language that is not necessarily need many years of healthcare experience to understand, and finally create these feedback loops that optimizes the whole process for the patient. So it's really the patients who are taking the lead in these studies, and the investigators are more of an observatory body that observe and see what's best for the patient, and they're
doing their thing. The investigators are doing their thing. They're doing what they're best at, and patients are, as you said, they're empowered to look for what's best for them, and we're just creating this environment where they can find each other.
That sounds like a very, 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 very simple. It's a very difficult idea to execute. So I do want to learn about it more, but I think we should kind of limit our conversation and podcast in bits. So I'm very excited that we're starting this, and I'm very much looking forward to learn more about our process and talk to other patients and other individuals who have gone through this process to get their idea.
Yeah. As you know, I've kind of hammered this home. Hopefully, I'm very passionate about clinical trials and the whole patient-centric approach. So I'm very excited about this. If you leave me at it, I'll go on and on for hours about all the things we want to do, and hopefully we can break it down into different sessions. So
Yeah, I'm very excited for our next podcast. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.